Welcome to the Best Little Town Podcast, your go-to source for everything happening in the town of Bedford's local government. Whether it's new initiatives or important decisions shaping our town's future, you'll hear it right here. This podcast is dedicated to keeping our residents informed and engaged.
Greetings. It is Wednesday morning, November 19th, 2025. I am Bart Warner, the Bedford Town Manager, speaking to you from the Media Squatch Studios on Grove Street, and this is the Best Little Town Podcast, the official podcast sponsored by the town of Bedford in cooperation with our Media Squatch partners, designed to recap the events of our most recent town council meeting, which took place last night, and also to provide a little bit more background information and hopefully some meaningful information to listeners about what's going on in our community. And with that, I'm going to jump right into the details of last night's meeting. Of course, going through the agenda, we first start with approval of minutes, and we did have one slight change last night. It doesn't happen very often, but there was a quote attributed to one council member regarding a community recognition that was actually made by another council member. So again, I think that's the first correction we've had in a long time, and that's no reflection on our staff. Shauna Bogus is our recording secretary, does a fantastic job, and she and Deborah Anderson do a good job otherwise of managing things. So I only pointed out because it just doesn't happen very often. The next item was my report, the report of the town manager, and mentioned several things that I'm going to repeat for the benefit of listeners of this program. First is there will be a ceremony associated with the dedication of the Vietnam War Veterans Memorial in front of the courthouse on Saturday, November 22nd at 11 o'clock a.m. Also, a reminder that the town of Bedford follows the annual holiday schedule posted by the Commonwealth of Virginia. Between now and the next time council meets, town offices will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday beginning at noon on Wednesday, November 26th, and we will remain closed throughout the remainder of that week. The first weekend in December has historically been a huge time of observance in the community for the holiday season. That's no different this year. There are several events taking place on Saturday, December 6th. In chronological order, the Bedford YMCA will have their annual Peaks of Otter Christmas Classic 5K race at 8:30 a.m., beginning and ending at Bedford Baptist Church. That's on 1516 Oakwood Street. That road race basically covers the Loop. The Loop is the affectionate term for the area created by Oakwood Street, Longwood Avenue, Peak Street, and Whitfield Drive. These are four streets that create a loop. It's a kind of a square-shaped thing, and it actually, the way it's laid out, is almost a perfect 5K course in and of itself. And so for many years, the Bedford YMCA has been sponsoring that run, and it's an enormously popular event for serious competitors and also those who just like to get out and walk the course. Following up on that, the Bedford Christmas Parade will begin at 11 o'clock a.m., staging for that event will begin earlier than that, about an hour prior to that. And while the parade route typically runs through downtown along Bridge Street, Main Street, Washington Street, and then culminating back at the Westgate Shopping Center, there will be some impacts on traffic 30 minutes to an hour in advance of that along College Street and Bedford Avenue Extension. So just want to make folks aware we do have some issues occasionally with traffic or folks out of town who don't know what's going on. So we appreciate your patience on that, but that's part of the production of what's usually a fun-filled and family-friendly event. The area of downtown will remain closed, a lot of the streets, after the culmination of the Christmas parade. There will be several booths and vendors, and hopefully businesses will also be open, and some festive activities all through the downtown, culminating in our tree lighting event at 6 o'clock p.m. that evening. The parade, the downtown festival, and the tree lighting are all sponsored by the Central Virginia Business Coalition and also Jonathan Hayden, who is a local promoter of events, and we really appreciate their generosity in putting that on for the community. Also that day, the Bedford Community Orchestra will be performing a concert at 7:30 p.m. in the auditorium at Susie Gibson Science and Technology Center. That's off of Edmond Street in the town of Bedford. Looking at the website, admission is free, although they would appreciate donations, and they do have a suggested amount of $15 to help support the community orchestra. And that's an interesting sidebar. Bedford has a community orchestra. For a town our size, and we talk about little town, really more as a term of affection, there is a basically volunteer group that gets together and performs under local leadership. I can't remember Scott's last name, who's the director, unfortunately, but it's an amazing group of people, very talented, very high quality performances. And for a community of our size to have an orchestra is kind of an unusual thing, but beyond that, we have a pretty darn good one. So just wanted to put a plug in there for that and for that organization. Again, they're putting on a free concert at Susie Gibson Saturday evening. Along with that, the Bedford Welcome Center, which is operated by our colleagues in Bedford County, has their Festival of Trees event at the Welcome Center building, which actually begins the week prior on November 30th. But on Saturday, December 6th, they will have extended hours. So welcome people to view a lot of different trees that are put together by community organizations. Also partake of the information that's available there. And I think they might even have a special visitor for the North Pole back in the back room to talk to children young and old. Also, the National D-Day Memorial will be having its annual Flames of Memory event. After dark, that's an event where they place luminaria. That's the candles that are kind of within reflective containers. Those line the road going up to D-Day, and they're placed all throughout the memorial. And my understanding is the symbolism is one candle represents each life lost in the D-Day invasion. And so it's very, very beautiful, very meaningful event. If you haven't had a chance to experience that, we would encourage you to do that. The other thing I'll mention is that the former Elks Home facility off of Ashland Circle, which is now Spring Tree Retirement Community, is continuing the tradition of the Christmas lights there at that facility. A lot of us who've been here for a while, and particularly some of the older residents, remember the Elks Home Christmas lights, and it's a well-known regional attraction that kind of has evolved a bit since the Elks Home was sold to a private interest, and they're still doing their best to maintain that tradition, but they are seeking help with that. I think there is actually a volunteer event this Saturday, November 2nd, where Bedford Get Together and the management of the community there are trying to keep that tradition going, get the lights up and get the decorations going. So I assume that those will be lit the previous day. That's typically what happens. Also, the town of Bedford is working on our Christmas light display at Liberty Lake Park, which should be up and running as well on Saturday, December 6th. Moving on in my report last night, in our new business on the council agenda, there was an item involving a $2,500 contribution from the town for decorations in conjunction with the December 6th tree lighting event that I mentioned a moment ago. The event organizer, Jonathan Hayden, also welcomes other donations from the community. And I did this a couple of times during the meeting last night, so not trying to aggravate John, but I did get his permission to do so beforehand. If you are interested and willing to contribute towards the cost of the Christmas decorations in Centertown Plaza and associated with the downtown events, such as the one that will take place December 6th, Jonathan can be reached by email at reservedjshowtime@gmail.com, or you can call him at 540-425-4675. I mention that because he would certainly welcome any support and assistance with those costs that people may be willing to provide. And I did ask his permission to get that information out there, and would ask that you be charitable and don't abuse that access. Going to wait just a moment for the train to cross here at Grove Street, just outside. And it's just passed by. I concluded my report last night by recognizing a few of my colleagues on town staff. In the electric department, Ted Arrington recently completed the third level of 4 levels within our lineman apprentice program. I also recognized Finance Director Ann Cantrell and Information Technology Director Daryl Fouts for recently securing a grant from our insurance provider to defer costs related to computer purchases. And I expanded on that a little bit. Town staff are constantly looking for ways to be economical and to make the most of your taxpayer dollars. And that example, there's computer replacements that we have to undertake on a regular basis. Those aren't cheap. We're always looking for alternate ways to pay for that. And Ann and Daryl were both able to do that through this grant program. I also mentioned the fact that it's not exclusive to them. All of our staff are constantly looking for ways to make things more efficient and economical. Noted that our electric director, John Wagner, just yesterday submitted 2 separate grant requests for funding related to improvements at our Snowden hydroelectric plant. So hopefully those applications that John submitted will be successful, but we are always looking for ways to be good stewards of the public's funds and trust. That concluded my report. Next was the item where we have appearances before council, and that involves a time on our meeting agenda where we allow people to sign up to speak on pretty much any topic that might be near and dear to their heart. Again, unusually last night, we did not have anyone participate in that particular aspect of the council agenda. We then moved on to council comments, and that's where we typically go around the dais, and similar to appearances before council, each member of council gets the opportunity to share information and provide insights to the community of things that are probably important and of concern to everyone. Beginning with Vice Mayor Daryl Updike, he noted several activities in conjunction with Veterans Day observances that occurred last week. He noted that he attended a veterans breakfast himself at the Moose Lodge, sponsored by the County Recreation Department. There was also a veterans dinner later that night, sponsored by the Elks Lodge. Daryl, of course, is a U.S. Army veteran himself, so from that perspective, he said he really appreciated the service the community provided to recognize those that have served in uniform. Daryl also congratulated our electric employee, Charlie Epperly. Charlie is our engineer with our electric department and has been recognized by American Municipal Power with their Rising Star Award, and we made council aware of that a week or so ago, and we appreciate Daryl mentioning that publicly. Daryl also noted that he attended a Saturday craft fair sponsored by the Bedford Women's Club, and as part of that, he was approached by organizers of the Bedford County Fair Committee who shared with him their favorable impressions and comments about the town allowing them to have that event at Liberty Lake Park, the quality of the facility. They also had some suggestions as to how they might enhance the event and some suggestions for improvements that the town needs to hear. And Daryl noted that he referred them to me as town manager and also to Mayor C.G. Stanley. And we look forward to receiving those suggestions and acting upon them. Next, Councilman Dwight Evans extended his congratulations to Ann Cantrell on another successful audit presentation. Let me back up just a second. Prior to the regular council meeting, we had a work session with Mr. Chris Bantha of Brown Edwards. They are our independent auditor, and he presented in great detail the annual audit and financial report for the town. I'll say more about that because Chris actually was also on the new business agenda in presenting that information a little bit later in the meeting. Dwight also mentioned that he appreciated folks who were watching on YouTube. We didn't have the kind of crowd we've had in recent council meetings. Could be due to the fact that it was a date change for us due to holiday schedules, and maybe the lack of things that might be termed controversial on the agenda. But in any event, we note that we do offer opportunities to watch those live streaming on YouTube, and Councilman Dwight Evans recognized people who may be viewing in that way and expressed his appreciation. Councilman Todd Foreman expressed his thanks to the folks who were present and viewing online. Also expressed his congratulations to Ann Cantrell for a great audit report. He also noted that the County Director of Social Services, Mr. Andy Crawford, has recently received an award from the Virginia Department of Social Services for outstanding leadership, and we join Todd in recognizing Andy and his staff for all the great work they do to serve our community as well. Councilman Jay Ippolito expressed his thanks to Lowe's and Councilman Haley in particular with regard to some improvements made to the Liberty Lake Park facilities through a Hometown Heroes program sponsored by Lowe's. That received some good local media coverage as well. So again, we join Jay in extending our thanks to Lowe's in general and Councilman Haley in particular, who is an employee there, for reaching out to the community to make some much needed improvement to the appearance of the concession stand and restroom building at Liberty Lake Park. Jay concluded his comments by wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving holiday. Next, Councilman Stacey Haley expressed his thanks to veterans who attended the Elks dinner that was sponsored on November 11th for them. He, in turn, thanked Jay Ippolito for providing food to the Lowe's employees who participated in the work at Liberty Lake Park. Also, in his role as exalted ruler of the local Elks Lodge, Councilman Haley presented an award to Officer Justin Gravely of the Bedford Police Department in recognition of his service to the community. And Justin is one of our fairly younger officers, but someone who's really active in the community, and we really appreciate him being part of the team. Also, there were quite a few members of our police department staff there to witness the honor that Justin received and provide support, and we appreciate that too. Really extraordinary team here overall with the town, and I'm grateful to just be a part of it personally, and as a citizen, really appreciate the high level of service they provide. Wrapping up council comments was Mayor C.G. Stanley. He echoed previous comments that Ann Cantrell and her staff had done a great job in allowing the staff to get a clean and good audit report, as usual. We've actually come to expect that from them. CG noted that he attended the D-Day ceremony honoring veterans on November 11th, and at that ceremony there were 3 World War II veterans present who are 100 years of age and older, and CG remarked on the significance of that and the great meaning behind it. Moving on, we then had report of council committees. There have not been any committee meetings since the last time we got together, and there were also no revisions to last night's agenda. And with that, we moved on into the new business, beginning with a presentation from Chris Bantha of Brown Edwards, the audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025. Chris noted that he had spent the hour before at a work session going through several documents related to the audit and the financial report. One of the things they are charged with is presenting the report of the audit. This year, as in previous years, we had a clear, unqualified opinion. Chris noted that is the highest level of compliance that they can offer. They also have reviewed our policies and procedures and internal controls and found no significant findings. They also reviewed our compliance testing as required by the state auditor, reported no findings, and reported no discrepancies, disagreements, or other issues related to management or town staff. In closing, Chris expressed his thanks again to Ann Cantrell and our team in the finance department, and noted that actually the town of Bedford is ahead of the curve in terms of financial reporting and auditing, due to the fact that we have an enormously talented staff. There have been some other communities that are struggling, frankly, to stay on top of those issues, and it kind of goes back to the depth and and unique level of talent that we've been able to attract and keep here on our staff. So we appreciate Chris pointing that out, and certainly we concur with that opinion. The next item of new business was a presentation regarding the town website update, and that presentation was provided by Woody Watts, who is our marketing and communications guru and owner of Media Squatch company here, where we're actually providing this podcast. Woody provided a review of a refresh and a redesign of the Town of Bedford website. That is www.bedfordva.gov. Woody explained that the new design was needed based on community and staff feedback. We've had some people express difficulty in finding information, and we also incorporated some direct input from residents of the website. We also have some data-driven priorities there. We kind of highlighted the frequently visited features, such as live streams of council meetings, this podcast, again, we thank you for listening, and council member information. We're featuring improved accessibility and navigation with clearer menu structure and hopefully fewer clicks to provide faster access to the information that you find important, as well as more visible social links. Social media access is now positioned higher to strengthen community engagement and communication. Ultimately, we're trying to provide a modern, mobile-friendly layout with a clean, responsive design optimized for desktop, tablet, and mobile users. And this is important because a strong, cohesive digital identity is essential for how Bedford is viewed by residents, businesses, and visitors. Our website and social media feeds often served as the first impression people ever have of our community. By aligning our online presence with clear, accessible information and a modern design, we strengthen Bedford's brand, improve public trust, and ensure our digital front door reflects the welcoming, vibrant town we strive to represent. Again, this is mainly a redesign and a refresh. It's the same www.bedfordva.gov website that you've come to know and be experienced with if you've used it, but we've tried to make it a little more fresh, a little more user-friendly, and a little more relevant in today's times. The newly redesigned website will officially go live on December 4th between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m., but certainly after 11 a.m. on December 4th, you will see a new, fresh web page representing the best little town. Next item of new business related to a fiscal year 25 capital rollover in the electric fund. We've talked about before, the town is required to budget and exist within a 12-month fiscal year that begins on July 1st each year and concludes on June 30th. Unfortunately, the work that we do does not often fit neatly within that 12-month box. So frequently there are times that there are capital improvement projects or other ongoing things that have been approved and appropriated beginning July 1st, but have not been completed as of June 30th. That was what we were dealing with last night. In this case, we had three specific projects, which included upgrading financing and billing software for utility billing, replacing a speed increaser, and some hydro infrastructure improvements up at the Snowden plant that were budgeted in fiscal year 25 but not completed. And last night we asked council to approve a budget amendment which would appropriate budget to the general ledger accounts for that activity, basically extending that work. Again, even in the financial world and the budget world, where that was contained within that 12-month box, in the real world, we recognize that we have to keep working, so that means we have to amend the current year budget to reflect that change. On a motion by Councilman Stacey Haley, seconded by Council Todd Foreman, that amendment and capital rollover was unanimously approved by all members present. Forgot to mention last night that Councilman David Foster was not able to join us, but otherwise the other 6 members of council voted in favor of the capital rollover. The next item of new business related to a Virginia Department of Emergency Management and Federal Emergency Management Agency Town Emergency Protective Measures Reimbursement Grant. Back in February 2025, a lot of us may remember, the town experienced a severe winter ice and flooding event that resulted in significant impacts across multiple departments. Beginning in May 2025, town staff began to work closely with VDEM, Virginia Department of Emergency Management, and FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to document and verify expenses incurred as a direct result of the storm. Over the following months, expenditures were reviewed and classified as either eligible or ineligible for reimbursement. It was determined that employees at the Snowden Hydro Plant up on the James River performed essential maintenance and preventive work in response to the event, incurring costs related to overtime, equipment use, and supplies totaling over $7,000. Of that amount, FEMA approved reimbursement for 75% of the eligible expenses, and VDEM reimbursed an additional amount of over $1,000 for a combined total of $6,340, and that was the grant amount that we received from a combination of the federal and state emergency management programs. Did note last night that we extended our great thanks to the Bedford County Director of Emergency Management, Mr. Kent Roby, and his staff. They were instrumental in facilitating this grant application for us and assisting us every step of the way. So again, we appreciate our colleagues up the street in the county offices, enjoy a wonderful working relationship with them, and as a side note, appreciate the services the county provides to us as citizens in addition to what we do here at the town. Councilman Stacey Haley moved to approve the budget amendment, which was necessary to accept the grant and apply it to those expenses that we had related to the February storm. That motion was seconded by Councilman Jay Ippolito. It was passed unanimously by a 6-0 vote of all members of council who were present. Also related to the February 2025 storm, there were some other expenses from the electric department that were deemed as eligible for reimbursement from FEMA and VDEM. Biggest expense we had there related to one pole in particular we know that was damaged and carried quite a bit of infrastructure on it when it was unfortunately struck by a vehicle. But there were other things such as overtime, equipment use, and materials totaling $23,000. Of that amount, FEMA approved reimbursement for 75% of those eligible expenses, and VDEM contributed an additional reimbursement of over $3,400 for a combined total of $20,988, and that is the figure of the combined emergency grants received from both the state and federal authorities dealing with such matters. On a motion by Councilman Dwight Evans, seconded by Councilman Todd Foreman, all members who were present unanimously voted to approve that budget amendment related to recovery of costs from the February 2025 storm. And again, we thank Kent Roby and his staff and all of our partners at the county, state, and federal levels. The next item of new business related to renewable energy credits and assignment of revenues that we receive for those. The Blue Ridge Power Agency, or BRPA, represents the town of Bedford at the Southeast Power Administration and markets the renewable energy credits allocation on behalf of the town. I'm going to take a sidebar here to note that under federal and state guidelines, any energy that we generate that qualifies as renewable or clean energy has some assigned value according to certain regulatory standards that we can then market. So we basically get credit, literally, for being partners in producing clean energy that has no negative impacts on the environment. That's primarily achieved through our Snowden hydroelectric plant up on the James River. Also through a solar farm that we own and operate on our former landfill facility within the town. In addition to reducing our costs locally by generating power here, we don't have to pay to basically have it trucked over lines from somewhere else. We also get credit for that is tangible, and in this case, the town of Bedford has received $329,000 in revenue based on our participation in clean energy generation. That allocation is managed for us by Blue Delta, which is an agent retained by the Blue Ridge Power Agency. The town also received $34,000 from underground fees when we move lines from poles and power lines to more secure areas where they're buried and not susceptible to things like trees falling on them and freezing and other breaks. The electric department requested a capital appropriation of $426,758, which matches the value of the RECs plus the revenue we receive from underground installation fees. That additional revenue would fund a majority of the appropriation, and the remainder to be funded from the available prior year reserves for the capital request. So last night, council was requested to accept the revenue for the rebates and recoveries of $363,906 total, also to assign $62,000 of prior year fund balance, and use that money for several projects, and I'm going to go down that list, including new transformers, new poles, materials and supplies, training expenses, repairs to a flatbed truck owned by the electric department, safety training, infrastructure improvements and extensions, a 69 kilowatt volt circuit breaker, another breaker, also coverage in our contingency funds, lease and rental of equipment, and also maintenance of an electric department generator. Again, those expenditures match the revenue request of over $426,000 on a motion by Vice Mayor Updike, seconded by Stacey Haley. That was unanimously approved 6-0 by all members who were present. Again, going back to the discussion about the 12-month box for the budget, there are also things that sometimes pop up after July 1st that we had not expected. So the budget is a work plan, and it's our best guess, and it's an educated guess that usually works out. But sometimes there are things that happen, and they represent things that we don't know. So we had 3 such items that we were addressing last night. The first was a budget amendment for expenses related to a recent retreat that council undertook on October 25th at the Bedford Public Library. That retreat was facilitated by Craig Meadows through the Berkeley Group and came with a total cost of $6,200. I think council sees that as a very worthwhile event. It did coordinate a lot of what they've been talking about and working on, and we will be referencing some of that work ongoing. Council identified some specific priorities that we will be referencing and that will be guiding all of our work and discussions. And in fact, beginning with the next meeting, we're going to release that information and also announce the implementation of some of the things they talked about. Also significant to note that Mr. Meadows is a former city manager of Bedford. So in addition to the fact that he's a generally excellent facilitator, he also had some intimate knowledge of our community that proved to be very valuable. The total cost again for that was $6,278. And again, we had not budgeted that as of July 1st because we didn't know exactly that we were going to be using the services of a facilitator, but we did find that to be a very worthwhile exercise all around. In addition, there was a budget amendment for $2,500 towards the cost of decorations for the tree lighting ceremony on December 6th. Back on October 28th, John Hayden, who is the organizer of that event, appeared before council and requested a sponsorship of $5,000 towards the expenses related to the tree lighting ceremony. Council actually had approved a previous request from Mr. Hayden last year of $2,500, and based on that precedent, as well as a personal conversation I had with John, council agreed to match that same level of the previous year of $2,500, and that was part of the budget amendments considered last night. We'll note, though, that that is something that council is a little concerned about. We're happy to assist the community directly in things. There are a limitless number of excellent causes. The problem is we can't fund all of them. So in cooperation with John and with his approval, we noted that if the community would like to chime in and support that operation, that would actually take it off the responsibility of town council and would eliminate our concerns about identifying specific winners and losers when it comes to the worthwhile activities that take place. So that $2,500 budget amendment was included in the package last night. I'm going to take a sidebar here again to remind you that If you're willing to contribute money to assist with the cost of that, please contact Jonathan Hayden directly by phone, 540-425-4675. The next budget amendment related to a new system for employee self-service time module and time clocks. At a work session on October 28th, 2025, staff briefed Town Council on the request to add an employee self-service and time attendance module with time clocks to the town's enterprise resource planning software contract agreement. The addition of this module would provide employees with a connected internet portal within the system to view payroll documents such as previous pay stubs and W-2s, to view leave balances and usage, and to view other payroll data. The module with time clocks would allow for the town departments to automate paper timesheet processes and or manual time clock processes into an automated time process with the town's payroll system. Staff anticipates that the module will create efficiency from current processes and reduce the potential for human error. The recurring fees added to the town's software contract will be $10,029 per year moving forward. The total one-time costs associated with the time clocks and implementation will be $25,695. The recurring fees will be covered for the first year from a delay associated with the negotiation we made with our software provider. The one-time fees require a budget appropriation in the capital fund, and staff prepared the budget amendment for that in the amount of $25,695. On a motion by Councilman Haley, seconded by Councilman Todd Foreman, all members present voted unanimously, 6-0, to approve all three budget amendments, which were kind of bundled together for their consideration in the interest of efficiency. The next item of new business dealt with an amendment of the town code regarding parking tickets and the penalty for overtime parking. For several months, and actually spanning several councils by this point, there have been discussions about several issues involving the downtown area, including the perception of parking. One consistent theme of those discussions relates to the town's enforcement practices related to vehicles that are parked in violation of parking regulations. Currently, the town charges a minimum fine of not less than $10 per ticket for vehicles that are illegally parked and $20 for each successive ticket received on the same day. The relative value of those particular amounts has decreased over time, and they do not appear to have any deterrent effect on the practice of illegal parking. Based on that and the numerous discussions over previous years, staff has reviewed the matter and recommended that the minimum fine for vehicles that are illegally parked be increased to $30 per ticket and $50 for each successive ticket received on the same day. On a motion by Councilman Dwight Evans, seconded by Councilman Jay Ippolito, Town Council considered adoption of such an ordinance, which basically would increase the minimum parking ticket from $10 to $30 and from $20 to $50 for each successive ticket received on the same day. As part of the discussion of that matter, Councilman Todd Foreman asked about the effective date. The ordinance that was posted, or at least the amendment, was drafted in such a way that it could be effective immediately upon passage. But Councilman Foreman and all those present agreed that some grace period ought to be granted. The town attorney who drafted the ordinance advised that this would be a matter of administration and the discretion of the officers. So basically, we'll talk to Chief Jim Moore about that. We are going to be changing the minimum tickets, but we do intend to undertake some educational process to let people know that's coming, including, and not apart from, mentioned in this particular podcast. That motion to amend the ordinance to increase minimum parking fines passed unanimously, 6 votes to 0 for all members who were present on council. The last item of new business is a little bit complicated. I'm going to do my best to try to explain a little bit of background information, but this was an amendment of the town code regarding fees associated with parking on private property. According to the Code of Virginia, towns have the authority to establish permissible limits for fees to be charged by private parking lot owners, private parking lot operators, to owners of vehicles who are trespassing in the process of being towed and or that have immobilization devices placed on them. Basically, this deals with private parking lots that charge a fee for people to park there and the penalties that they can apply to people who exceed that time or do not make the payment. That particular fee has been set at $25 within the town of Bedford for over 30 years, during which time, obviously, the purchasing power and value of $25 has substantially decreased. In recognition of this, and at the request of individual private parking lot operators within the town, staff has reviewed the matter in comparison with other localities and recommended that the allowable charge be increased from $25 to $75. Councilman Stacey Haley made a motion to accept amendment of the code to allow private parking lot operators to charge a penalty of $75 to people who violate their terms. That was seconded by Councilman Jay Ippolito. Discussion among council members ensued on the impact of this whole policy issue on the owners of these private parking lots. And one person, Mr. Brian Reynolds, was in the audience, and council specifically asked him a couple of questions about his experience and the practicality of this approach. Based on that interaction, Councilman Todd Foreman suggested that $75 might not be the most pragmatic fee and suggested that be increased to $150. That recommendation was accepted by Councilman Stacey Haley, who made the original motion. So, whereas sometimes there's an amendment to an motion that is not accepted by the person who made it, and that requires a vote, that was not the case last night. The suggestion that Councilman Foreman offered was accepted by Councilman Haley, so the motion then became to increase the allowable charge from $25 to $150. There was also discussion of an effective date for this. Again, this kind of is an odd thing. It relates to our regulation of a private operation that charges a fee. So technically, we're not the ones who enforce it. But on that matter of clarification, there was another amendment to the motion to make that policy effective December 1st. After all that was sorted out, a unanimous vote of all members of council present meant that the amendment was passed. And again, that means that owners of private parking lots who charge a fee can now charge a penalty of $150 to people who do not pay the appropriate fee, and that will take effect on December 1st. And with that action, the regular meeting of Town Council was concluded. We had no further business, and the meeting was adjourned. We'll note that our next regular meeting of Town Council will be Tuesday, December 9th at 7 p.m. That will be the only regular meeting of council. The next regular scheduled meeting on the current schedule would be December 23rd, but in recognition of the Christmas holiday and travel plans by both council members, staff, and also the community, that meeting has been canceled. Want to remind folks that beginning in January, the regular meeting time and date, well, the time will stay the same, but the dates for council meetings will change to the first and third Tuesdays of every month, still meeting at 7 o'clock p.m., but we'll make sure to remind people of that beforehand at our next council meeting. Also, just wanted to note that if there are any questions about anything, we encourage you to come in person if you can make it. If you can't, watch the live stream on youtube.com. You can watch the recording. You can also find minutes, approved minutes of recent meetings that are posted on our website, www.bedfordva.gov. Or you can reach out to me directly by email, bwarner@bedfordva.gov, or contact us at Town Hall during business hours at 540-587-6001. Do appreciate your input and comments, and if there is an issue or a problem, please feel free to let us know about it. I will tell you, we do our best to try to stay on top of things, but occasionally there are things that get past us and we may not be aware of them. So if there's a problem, we certainly want to know about it, and we will do our level best to address those things immediately, but would also ask for some grace in that and the understanding that we may not necessarily know about it. So sharing information in any form is always a good thing, and we certainly appreciate that. On that note, I plan to join you again the day after the December 9th council meeting. In the meantime, I wish everyone a very blessed and happy Thanksgiving holiday. Hope everyone will enjoy partaking of the several events we have in this vibrant and wonderful community, particularly on the weekend of December 6th. And wish everyone good health and happiness as we face the changing weather and the changing times, but we do resolve to continue to do what we can to maintain the history and heritage of this wonderful place, even as we experience change and as we become something that, frankly, we've never been before. It's an exciting time. It's a little bit challenging. Maybe there are some concerns, but we approach these things with a spirit of optimism and a great willingness to embrace the effort. So thank you very much for your time and attendance to this podcast so far today. And again, if there's any issues that we can help you with, we are certainly glad to hear from you. Until then, I will look forward to joining you on our next episode of the Best Little Town podcast.